Well, you really sent us some interesting stuff for this deep dive.
Yeah, it's a pretty diverse set of sources today.
Yeah, for sure. We've got like market analysis and
Quantum computing
oh
predictions.
yeah, and even I saw something about how people are, investing on Robinhood these days.
Yeah, it really highlights how interconnected all these areas are, even though they seem separate.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a deep dive into like CEO confidence and the changing face of AI and
And the market, of course.
oh, always got to talk about the market, especially that volatility. And then
And tariffs.
oh, of course the tariffs. Yeah, everyone's talking about tariffs.
So why don't we start with that CEO confidence report that came out from the conference board? They're reporting that confidence is at like a 3-year high, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised by that, to be honest, especially with all the talk about trade wars and tariffs.
Right. It seems like CEOs are seeing something that like the rest of us aren't.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But, it's true. Despite concerns about tariffs and, President Trump's policies, they are, I guess, feeling good.
Interesting.
Yeah, we could ask an economist what's really driving this optimism, and is it like sustainable, in the long run, and how are companies adapting to all this uncertainty?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, I'm curious.
So, okay, so CEOs are feeling good, but then we have this Walmart earnings report,
Right,
which actually sparked a sell-off, which is kind of wild.
right.
It seems like investors are worried about slowing profit growth, but I don't know, is that reaction like warranted?
Well, Walmart's CFO, he insists that their outlook is conservative and that the consumer remains, and I quote, steady and consistent.
Hmm.
However, he also acknowledged that, consumers are facing some pressure, turning to those private label brands and prioritizing essentials over, I guess, like all the fun stuff.
Right, right, the discretionary spending.
Exactly.
So it's a mixed bag then, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Walmart is kind of seen as like a bellwether for the whole economy, right?
Yeah.
So their cautious outlook, it could be a sign of some broader trends.
Right.
But then again, they have a history of kind of exceeding those expectations
Yes,
too.
that's true.
So it'd be interesting to get a retail expert's perspective, like how is Walmart navigating this landscape of inflation and how are consumer behaviors changing? And what does that tell us about like the entire retail sector?
Yeah, it's like a microcosm
Exactly.
of what's happening.
Yeah, and speaking of changing landscapes, I think we need to talk about AI.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There are some seismic shifts happening over
Yeah.
there, especially with the emergence of DeepSeek,
Right.
which is like a much cheaper AI model.
Yeah.
And it suggests that maybe we're moving away from those hardware-focused companies like NVIDIA
Hmm.
and, maybe leaning more towards software.
Yeah, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
This DeepSeek thing seems like a real game changer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I knew that AI costs were going to come down eventually.
Right, yeah.
But this seems to have sped up that timeline a lot.
Dramatically.
Dramatically, yeah. And it's affecting valuations and like creating new opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. DeepSeek has definitely shaken things up.
For sure.
The cost of AI is plummeting, and that's having a huge ripple effect on everything.
Yeah. And I mean, for investors,
Oh, yeah.
like how do they keep up with all of this?
It's a lot, that's for sure.
Especially with all the market volatility we're seeing.
Right. And it seems like even, President Trump's policies are playing a role in that volatility, too.
Yeah, it does.
Especially analysts are saying that investors might not be fully pricing in the risks of those policies,
Interesting.
particularly related to immigration, which could have a huge impact on labor markets and inflation.
Right. And it's unpredictable, too. It's like nobody knows what's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's like trying to play chess while the board is like constantly tilting.
I like that analogy.
So how can investors, I mean, how can anybody assess and manage risk in this kind of market?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah, maybe we should ask a financial analyst.
For sure. I think they'd have some insights.
Yeah.
So in the middle of all this uncertainty, it's interesting to see how retail investors are reacting.
Oh, yeah. How are they handling all of this?
Well, the chief brokerage officer at Robinhood was saying that retail investors tend to be more reactive to news events,
Oh,
like
interesting.
tariff announcements,
That's a watch.
which often leads to them overreacting in the market.
So they're just jumping on every headline.
Basically, yeah.
Wow, that's kind of risky.
It can be, and Robinhood has actually seen a surge in after-hours trading as these retail investors respond to news in real time.
Wow, so it's like they're treating the stock market like a video game or something.
Kind of, yeah. They're making these quick decisions based on like emotion rather than analysis.
Right.
So it just shows how all this information and the volatility is changing their behavior,
Yeah.
So we should definitely ask a behavioral finance expert about that. Like,
Right.
how are these behaviors evolving and what are the implications for those investors and the market as a whole?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's a whole new world out there.
It really is. And speaking of new worlds, let's talk about humanoid robots.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
That sounds like could be straight out of science fiction.
Right.
But it seems like it's becoming more and more real. Like we're seeing companies like Amazon and Tesla.
Even Ford?
Oh, yeah, and Ford, they're pouring so much money into this technology.
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting area, but experts are cautioning that we're not in a sci-fi movie just yet.
Okay, right.
I mean, while these robots have gotten better at things like, bipedal movement, there's still a lot of challenges
Right.
like replicating the dexterity of human hands, and creating robots that can actually understand the world and interact with it.
Right.
It's still really difficult.
So we're not at the Jetsons stage yet, but
Not quite, but we're getting there.
we're getting there. So what are the biggest hurdles to that? Like what breakthroughs need to happen to, bring these robots out of the lab and into our lives?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Maybe we need to talk to a robotics expert about that.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, we'll have to see if we can find one.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So it's just incredible to think about the implications of all this, if these robots were actually everywhere.
Right. How would they impact the workforce and even just our daily lives?
Exactly. It really makes you think.
It does.
It's been a pretty intense deep dive so far.
It has. We've covered a lot of ground, from CEO confidence to those jitters in the market and that whole AI landscape changing, and now robots. It's clear that the financial world is just this complex web of connections.
Absolutely. It's all interconnected.
Yeah, seemingly unrelated events can have these huge ripple effects across markets and industries. Exactly, and that's why it's so important to stay informed, to be adaptable, especially in this landscape that's constantly changing.
So what do you think is the most significant takeaway from all of this?
I think it's the realization that we are living in a period of really rapid change and a lot of uncertainty.
Hmm.
Technology is advancing so quickly, global events are unfolding at an incredible pace, and financial markets, they're mirroring all that volatility.
So how do we navigate that?
By staying informed, being flexible, and being willing to, adjust our strategies as needed,
Hmm.
asking the right questions, seeking out different perspectives,
Yeah.
and challenging our assumptions.
Right. So we have to be like financial detectives, constantly gathering clues and piecing it all together.
Exactly. We need to be proactive, anticipate change instead of just reacting to it.
And I think most importantly, remember that this is a journey, not a destination.
Well said. It's a continuous process of learning, adapting, and evolving.
Speaking of evolving, as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Ooh, I like it. Go ahead.
We've talked about AI and robotics advancing at this crazy rate, but what about the human element? What about us?
That's a great question. What skills and knowledge will people need to thrive in this world that's rapidly changing? How can we adapt our education systems, our workforce development programs, even our own mindsets to prepare for this future that's being so heavily influenced by technology?
Yeah, I feel like we're on the edge of like this new frontier. There's a lot of excitement and possibility, but also I think a need for caution.
It's about finding that balance between innovation and responsibility,
Right.
between progress and preservation.
And I think remembering that the future is not something that just happens to us.
Right.
It's something that we create.
Absolutely, through our choices, our actions, and our vision for the future.
Well said. And speaking of shaping the future, I think we have to talk about the impact of financial markets on these technological advancements.
Oh, absolutely. Investors are putting so much money into AI, robotics, and all those cutting-edge fields.
Right.
They're fueling innovation and driving progress.
But there's also the risk of hype and speculation.
Oh, for sure. It's like a gold rush. Everyone's trying to get in on it.
Yeah, but not all that glitters is gold, right?
Exactly. Some investments will succeed, others will fail.
Right.
It's about figuring out which technologies are truly transformative and which ones are just fads.
So what's the key to doing that?
It's about careful analysis, due diligence, and a healthy dose of skepticism.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement,
Oh, yeah.
but it's crucial to maintain a critical eye.
So investors need to be asking those tough questions, challenging assumptions, and looking beyond the hype.
Exactly. They need to understand the technology, the market dynamics, the risks, the rewards.
And be prepared for volatility.
Oh, yeah.
As we've seen, I mean, the market can swing wildly based on, news, policy announcements, even just what a CEO says.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that investing is not for the faint of heart.
Right.
It requires patience, discipline, and a long-term perspective.
And it's also a reminder that financial markets are not some abstract entity. They're driven by human emotions.
Fear, greed, hope, uncertainty.
Exactly. And those emotions can be amplified in times of rapid change and disruption.
Definitely.
It's like we're all trying to figure out this world that's constantly shifting beneath us.
That's a great way to put it. And in that context, staying informed, having thoughtful conversations, and challenging our own assumptions is more important than ever.
We need to be willing to learn and adapt and evolve our thinking as the world around us changes.
That's how we not just survive, but thrive in this era of unprecedented change.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to our initial question, like, where is technology taking us?
It's a question without easy answers,
Right.
but one that we have to keep grappling with as we navigate this uncharted territory of the 21st century.
It's a journey filled with promise and peril, and we're all on it together.
Well said.
So as we continue on this journey, let's make sure we're equipped with the knowledge, the skills, and the mindset to make those informed decisions, to embrace innovation responsibly, and to shape a future that benefits all of humanity.
That's a powerful vision, and it's one that we can all strive for no matter who we are or what we believe.
Speaking of beliefs, we've seen how political and economic ideologies can shape perspectives on, well, everything from trade policy to technology.
It's natural for people to have different views, to interpret things through their own lens, and to advocate for policies that align with their values.
Right.
But engaging in respectful dialogue, listening to different viewpoints, finding common ground, that's crucial.
Yeah, we need to avoid those echo chambers and those filter bubbles that can lead to polarization.
Exactly. Be willing to challenge our own biases and consider other perspectives.
That's how we build a healthy democracy and a thriving society.
And it's how we navigate these complex challenges like climate change, technological disruption, global inequality.
We can't be divided, we have to work together.
Find solutions that benefit everyone.
Absolutely. And that requires empathy, understanding, and a willingness to compromise.
It also requires evidence-based decision-making, critical thinking, a healthy dose of skepticism.
We need to be wary of misinformation and propaganda.
We need to be discerning consumers of information, fact-check, seek out reliable sources.
And be mindful of our own biases and the biases of others.
Well said. It's a lot to keep in mind.
It is, but I think we're up to the challenge.
I agree.
And I think our listeners are too.
They're a smart bunch.
They are. So let's keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep pushing forward.
To a better future.
Absolutely.
It's really fascinating to think about what would happen if we had, humanoid robots everywhere.
Right. Yeah, it makes you think, what would that do to the workforce? How would it change our everyday lives?
Exactly. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, we've covered a lot in this deep dive already, from CEO confidence to the market jitters, the AI landscape changing, now robots. I mean, it's clear that the financial world is just incredibly complex.
Yeah, it's a complex system for sure.
It really is, and all these seemingly unrelated events can have these ripple effects across everything.
Absolutely, and it just shows how crucial it is to stay informed and be adaptable, especially in a landscape that's constantly evolving like this.
So what do you think is the most significant takeaway from all of this?
I think for me, it's the realization that we're living in a time of really rapid change and just a lot of uncertainty. Technology is advancing at an unprecedented pace. Global events are unfolding so quickly, and the financial markets are just mirroring all of that volatility.
So how do we navigate that? How do we even begin to make sense of it all?
Well, I think it starts with staying informed, being flexible, and being willing to adjust our strategies as needed. We need to be asking the right questions, seeking out different perspectives and challenging our own assumptions.
So we need to be like financial detectives, constantly gathering clues and trying to piece together the bigger picture.
Exactly. We need to be proactive, anticipate change instead of just reacting to it after it's already happened.
And maybe most importantly, I think remembering that this is a journey, not a destination.
Well said. It's a continuous process of learning, adapting, and evolving.
Speaking of evolving, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Ooh, I like it. Go ahead.
We've talked about AI and robotics advancing at this incredible rate, but what about the human element? What about us?
That's a great question. What skills and knowledge will people need to thrive in this world that's changing so rapidly? How can we adapt our education systems, our workforce development programs, even our own mindsets to prepare for a future that's being so heavily influenced by technology?
Yeah, I feel like we're standing on the edge of like this new frontier. There's so much excitement and possibility, but also I think a need for caution and careful consideration.
It's about finding that balance, isn't it?
Yeah,
Between innovation and responsibility,
right.
between progress and preservation.
And I think remembering that the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something that we create.
Absolutely, through our choices, our actions, and our vision for what we want the future to be. It's it's a lot to consider, for sure.
It is, but it's essential for navigating this world that's just, it's becoming more complex and interconnected every day.
It really is.
And that kind of brings us back to our mission today, right?
Yeah, what was it again?
To help you, the listener, distill the signal from all this noise,
Right.
to help you understand these connections between events that seem, on the surface, totally unrelated.
And to help empower you to make those informed decisions.
Exactly. So we've explored all these different topics. We talked about CEO confidence, those AI shifts, even the potential of humanoid robots.
It's a pretty diverse mix.
It is, and we've seen how all those stories are kind of intertwined,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
They reflect this complex interplay of technology and economics, politics, and even human behavior.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So what stood out to you as the most, I don't know, the most surprising or insightful connection that we've uncovered?
That's a good question. I think for me, it was that link between CEO confidence and the potential impact of President Trump's
Oh
policies.
yeah, right,
It's fascinating to see how business leaders are responding to all this uncertainty.
right, yeah,
It shows that, the financial world isn't separate from politics, and
right.
it really highlights how important it is to understand that broader context.
When you're making investment decisions.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's also a reminder that the future isn't like set in stone.
Right.
It's shaped by the choices that we make today.
And those choices are influenced by so many
Oh,
factors.
I know. It's like economic trends and technology and politics, even ideologies.
Yeah, it's this complex web of
It
interconnections.
really is, and it's our job as informed citizens to untangle that web,
To understand what forces are at play.
Yeah, and then to make choices that actually align with our values and our vision for the future.
Well said.
So as we continue to explore these complex issues, it's important to remember that there's always more to learn.
Oh, for sure.
There are always new perspectives to consider, new connections to uncover, and new questions to ask.
That's the beauty of the deep dive, right?
Exactly.
It's a never-ending journey of discovery.
And it's a journey that we're all on together.
Together.
So let's keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.
Let's embrace the challenges and the opportunities of this century, with curiosity and courage and a commitment to creating a better future.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, go ahead.
We've talked a lot about, technology and finance and the global economy, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to people.
That's true.
It's people who create these technologies, who drive these markets, who make these decisions.
And it's people who will determine the shape of the future.
Exactly. So as you go about your day, as you interact with the world around you, remember that human element. Remember the power of individual choices and collective action and that potential that we all have to make a difference.
That's a powerful message.
And it's one that we should all carry with us as we navigate the complexities of this century.
Well said.
So with that, I think we've reached the bottom of this deep dive.
Indeed, it's been a fascinating journey.
Thanks for sharing your sources with us.
Of course.
And until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.